Hey, folks, I am a day late getting this episode to you, but the good news is I believe that this will be the most impactful solo episode of TRBM that I have done because I'm speaking from some pretty good experience. A lot of times I am exploring options to market my books, and I'm sharing those episodes with you as I'm in the explorative phase. And so I think that there's a lot of value in brainstorming and thinking about these things. But today I am going to break down for you the things that you need to do right now if you want to start selling your books at live events. This will be really directed toward comic expos, fan expos, culture shows, craft fairs, and the like. And I'm going to be as exhaustive as I can. I have a friend, fellow author, Colin Conway. He and John Hoda and I get together once a month to talk about actually our Facebook advertising through the AMMO program and try to help each other get better at that with mixed results. All three of us have had some really great moments and some down moments, but we found that because we are in similar genres, it can be helpful to share those experiences. I guess bonus tip, if you do advertise online, find somebody else who advertises online in your genre and immediately start meeting with them to help each other brainstorm, because nothing bad can come of it. So that's your bonus tip. But right now we're going to dive in. Colin had asked me to give him kind of a breakdown of what he should be prepared for as he gets into doing some live events himself. And my first inclination was to just answer the couple of questions he sent my way. And then I thought, you know what? I want to give him the big breakdown. Like, if I can't do a show with him and have him learn from me in person, then I might as well do the second best thing. And so I wrote an absurdly long email. Sorry, Colin. Hopefully you can pick your way through it and find value. But I think that email will be even elevated here to break it down with you guys. And then if you ever ask me like what you should do for a live show, I can just point you to this episode and get you started. There are also a handful of interviews that I have done more lately with people who are doing live shows. So we've got Benjamin Wallace. We have Ben Wolf. I guess the Bens love to do live shows. I talked with Heather Kint and a few other people, and I'm having more episodes coming up with folks doing live shows. Because here's the deal. If you advertise on Facebook, you have to know, or YouTube or anywhere else, you have to know that the learning curve is going to be steep. You can control the number of dollars that you put into that system so that you don't lose a ton of money really fast. But my real expectation is that you are going to likely lose the same number of dollars, whether you lose them quickly or you lose them slowly. And so it really comes down to how fast you want to lose money. I hate to say that because maybe some of you are going to just full stop right there and say, well, I can't afford to lose money on advertising, so I'm not going to do it. That is just sad if you choose that path, because while I think that live events are amazing, and I'm going to get to all of the benefits of those and the nitty gritty dirty, here's how to start right now if you want to do it, you can never make as much money in person as you can with a successful advertising campaign. Find one ad that converts at even a 2 return on ad spend and scale that bad boy up, and all of the sudden you can spend $500 a day on Facebook and earn $1,000. That's just simple math. There are other costs involved, but really imagine selling $1,000 worth of books every single day. Live events and shows typically are going to be, the biggest ones might go Thursday through Sunday, large ones Friday, Saturday, Sunday, small ones Saturday, Sunday, and niche ones might go Saturday or Sunday only. So even if you sold $1,000 of books on the biggest of the shows, which is very much possible, I've seen it happen myself with David and Lydia Scherer, you still just can only be in one place, and you can only do it for the allotted number of days that the show is going. And you also have to factor in other things with live events, like the cost of gas, the cost of materials, because you're not going to be selling digital products. So I wanted to frame this up as honestly and truly as I can. You're going to lose money learning how to advertise on Facebook, but when you figure out the ad that works, all of that money can be made up in 1 week. So, and this is just legit. This is the truth. I have spent close to $20,000 now advertising on Facebook. I have lost money on the whole. I'm not so deep in that it is affecting what I can put on the table for my kids and my wife. And at the same time, it would not be sustainable forever to do that. With that said, if I hit one ad that converts well, I can start to scale my ad spend and watch that ad continue to be successful, and I could make that $20,000 back in the space of a week. So what if I were to spend $2,000 a day? And if you think I'm crazy, talk to some of the most successful people in ammo. That's actually a very reasonable budget, is $2,000 a day. And on a 2 times ROAS, I'm going to be making that $2,000 back. That would be actually a fairly modest return. Some people see a higher ROAS when the ad really cranks. There are people out there who are doing 5x ROAS, and ROAS, by the way, return on ad spend. It's an industry word. But so you're going to see some massive money coming back at you quite quickly when you hit that ad. This is just the truth. I know it's hard for you to believe. It can be hard for me to believe, but I have had the good fortune of seeing people show me real spreadsheets of this kind of thing happening. So just trust the process. Continue to advertise online. Don't abandon it. But if you're like me, you probably have had to scale back so that you could continue to pay your bills, feed your family, take a vacation once in a while, although maybe I'll do a show on why vacations are kind of an illusion. But anyway, I have strange thoughts on that. If I'm going to go somewhere, I'd like to go somewhere to sell some books and maybe tag on a day at the end to do a little bit of sightseeing or something like that. And that would be a pretty nice vacation. Make it business. Take a little pleasure, go on with your life. Without further ado, let's dive into what you need to do today to be successful at in-person shows.
This is TRBM, a podcast for authors who are serious about earning a full-time living selling books to readers. I'm the host, Jody J. Sperling, and each episode I'll share with you practical tips on marketing and selling your books. And I won't hold anything back. Sometimes I fail. Every time I do, you'll know it. Sometimes I succeed. And when I do, I'll give you my step-by-step replay so you can succeed too. Thanks for listening.
So I'm going to assume that you've never done a show before. This is for newbies who are wanting to get into it, and these are the things that you want to be prepared for. Forgive me if it sounds a little rote at moments, because I'm really going to be going off of the email that I sent to Colin, and I will be, I think, elaborating on some of the points as it makes sense for this format. But I wanted to start out with, okay, I've decided I want to do live events. How do I find live events? That's really the foundation of this. If you don't know where to look, then you're not going to have a very good time of this. My favorite place to start out, and this works no matter where you live, as long as you're in the United States. And I think technically this does actually list shows around the world, but I don't think it's quite as robust. The resource is actually just fancons.com. That's fan, F-A-N, cons, C-O-N-S.com, /events/schedule.php, type equals comic. I'll have this link in the show notes so you don't have to write it down. But it's fancons.com, and you go to their events schedule for comic expos. It lists all of the shows that it knows of in the United States. Like I said, we'll focus on that. There may be others, but really in the United States. And it'll take you to that page for the show. It'll let you know how long it's been running. It will let you know when the dates are. It will let you know what the website is. And what I tend to do is focus on going to shows that have been around for a little while, because one of the biggest downsides to this is if you're going to first-time shows, there is a higher than average chance it's going to be poorly attended, poorly set up, poorly communicated, and you could easily lose the money that you pay to sign up for the show. Look for shows that have been around for a couple of years. They've probably worked out the bugs, and it proves that they had enough vendors who returned for a second year that they could be profitable on their side, because the show organizers have to make a living doing this. I can't even begin to imagine the kind of personality it would take to be a show runner in this case, because it is so detail oriented, setting up all of the tables, where everybody is going to be, visualizing the landscape of the event rooms. It's just beyond me, but I can easily be a vendor and succeed because they have booked that space. There are exceptions to this rule. I went to one first-time show that was in Milwaukee called HappyCon. It was a disaster, an unmitigated disaster. My friend Rich Hosek came with me. His podcast, Bedtime Stories for Insomniacs, is fantastic. I've mentioned it plenty of times here. He is also a roving co-host, though it's been a long time since I've had him on. He came to that show with me, and I think the both of us together sold fewer than 20 total copies of books. It was a 2-day show, Saturday and Sunday. I want to say it was right before Christmas. It was so poorly attended, and we were in an abandoned Kohl's in a shopping mall, and people didn't know that the show was going on. So like folks would wander through and be like, "What is this?" And you'd explain it, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay," and they would walk away. Like you didn't even get to pitch your books. It was a disaster. But I also went to a first-time show recently. I might have mentioned it, in Bentonville, Arkansas. Now, I will say the caveat here is that it was a first-time show, but it was by an experienced showrunner. And so that was at a hotel. I can't remember the branch or chain, whatever, but it was one of the Hilton products, I think. And when I got there, the hotel itself was in a strange spot. The parking lot was kind of potholed and not well maintained. The exterior looked a little bit worse for wear. The interior, really, I would not have wanted to stay at the hotel, even though it was a Hilton product. Sorry, Hilton. I'd love for you to sponsor the show if you want to, but honestly, this particular hotel branch was not in the best of shape. Not only that, it was a ticketed show, so people who were going to come had to pay to come. And when I got inside, I was 2 hours after the first load-in, and I was the third vendor there. So I'm like, okay, no one is coming, and this is going to be a really bad show. And I drove 6.5 hours to get here, so I girded up my loins and prepared for the worst. People got there with about 40 minutes to get this thing set up, and everybody gets their booth set up, and I noticed like there's about 30 vendors. I'm like, 30 vendors for a ticketed show seems crazy to me. They did have an anime voice person who was doing some signings and stuff, and they had a couple of other kind of name guests that were there as well. And I had an amazing Saturday. I sold a lot of books, especially because it was a fairly tight selling window. And a really small room. I heard some buzz from people who were walking around that they're like, wow, this is really small for a ticketed show. And yet I sold some of those people books, and they seemed really excited to dive in. So there are exceptions, but you can't know that really well. And so if you book a show that's brand new, just be prepared that you will likely lose money. It's okay to lose money. Again, we lose money in advertising online, so we can lose money at shows. And this is the last I'll say it, but do understand, when you're very first booking shows, there can be advantages to things like this. Like, you get to do a table setup at a first-time show. They're not going to have you be juried. So a juried show means you actually have to send them pictures of your booth. You have to send them like a CV of sorts that tells them your experience and how much you sell and things like that. And you are only selected if they think that you're going to be a draw for the show. So new people, you might have to go to some first-time shows to build up your CV, get your booth, get your pitch, all the things we're going to talk about here. So that would be a reason to maybe do it. But if you can avoid it, definitely avoid it. Craft fairs would be another one. Smaller craft fairs can be more successful. All right, I'm getting off topic, but that's where you would go, is fancons.com event schedule. It's going to be a great resource to find shows. Determine your radius, how far you want to drive, how often you want to do things, and then start looking for things in that radius that you might be able to book. Look at the website and determine if you want to go. So the other resource I just mentioned is craft fairs. And craft fairs are an amazing opportunity. I actually, to date, have had the best success per hour in sales at I think it was the very first show I went to. It was the St. Thomas More's Peddlers Market, and it was right before Christmas. It was a Thursday night, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., and it was this little private Catholic school. They had a main floor that was set up with maybe 100 vendors, and then they actually had a basement floor, which is where I was, and that was maybe another 30 or so vendors. So again, I hadn't done a ton, but I was a little bit nervous, thinking I'm not on the main floor. I wonder how much traffic I'm going to get. And from 5 o'clock to about 6:30, I didn't make a sale. I was really scared. But then from 6:30 to 8:30, I literally didn't have a moment without somebody at my table, and many times multiple people making double sales, like I'm selling here and then turning and talking to the next person, selling there. And I made $500 worth of sales. I didn't even have my third book in the series available with me, so I was selling a 2-book deal. Not only that, but I was selling 1 for 13 or 2 for 20. So my profits were a little bit lower, but like the ticket items, to think that I made $500 in that amount of time with a 2-book deal tells you the power of a show that cranks. And that's my best profit per hour and that I've done at any show I've done so far. So those kind of things are good, and they can get far better when you're going to the really big ones like the Cincinnati Comic Expo that I've talked a lot about, where I learned from David and Lydia Scherer. But craft shows, what I'm trying to communicate here is don't sleep on them. They can be really great for authors. What would I say that maybe if you're in the horror genre, or if you get like really, really dark, those kind of things might not be the best. And some things that would be exceptionally good would be romance at a craft fair. If you sell romance titles and you aren't already incredibly successful, which a lot of romance authors are, they have an easier time because romance is highly devoured by its audience. But if you wanted to do in-person events and you happen to write something in the romance genre, you would make a slaying at a craft fair. It's the right audience, it's the right niche, just based on who goes to a craft fair and why. But no matter what your genre is, as long as you're not horror, you're going to be successful at craft fairs. Same principles apply. Make sure that it's been around for a while, they know what they're doing, so on and so forth. And it can be tougher to find craft fairs, so this is a 2-part process. What you want to do is you want to type in to Facebook, your city, craft fair, craft show. Keep reiterating the things, and you do this in the Facebook group section. So you click on groups, then there's a little search icon, type your city name plus craft fairs. Or if you live in maybe like a larger metro, then pick a neighborhood or an area in your metro and look for craft fairs. Find a couple that look like they're coming up that you might be able to book a table. Try to book a table at one that meets the criteria we talked about. And then this is where the step 2 comes in, is when you get there and you're setting up, even before you know how successful the show is going to be, get there on the front end of the load-in. Load-in is when you're allowed to come in and start setting up. You're going to get load-in instructions from anybody who does craft fairs. You get there at the beginning of load-in. Get your table set up quickly, and we're going to talk very in depth about table setup as well, so don't stress it. Get there, get everything set up, and immediately start walking around to other vendors. Don't bug somebody who looks like they're really struggling to get their table set up. And pro tip, if you have the time and the willingness, say, hey, is there anything I can do to help you get set up? I'm already all ready to go. I mean, we authors have such an easy setup compared to some of these tables that you're going to see. If you can offer a hand, then you can definitely then go on to step 2, which is, hey, I see you've got a really big setup, or hey, I see it looks like you've been doing this for a while. Can you recommend to me the best shows in my area, in this area, where I could come? The reason this works so well at craft fairs is because not many authors are doing them right now, and so they will not view you as competition, and they will be more than happy to share what's good. I met a t-shirt company at the St. Thomas More's Peddlers thing that they gave me a lot of good information about Nebraska. Now, I wasn't smart enough to really like push and ask for more, but they would have jawed with me for a half an hour toward the end of the night if I wanted to, and I could have just written down a bunch of shows. That'll save you time on sifting through the bad ones, and help you to know where to target your information. But Facebook is a great resource. It's a little bit more difficult to navigate than necessarily the FanCons one is, but it will get you started. It will give you an idea of what is around. And so for both of these things, one thing I want to talk to you about is that the range of prices for a table vary pretty heavily. Typically, all shows in craft fairs or comic expos, fan expos, they will have two separate types of tables. They will have what's called Artist Alley, and they will have vendor booths. Vendor booths are always going to be almost double the cost of an Artist Alley. You get the same square footage, but if you are an Artist Alley, you're going to get a lower priority positioning. Sometimes that can backfire. For the most part, I've always done Artist Alley because I do want to save a buck, and I have had some really good placements, so it has not seemed to affect my sales. But if you are cranking, you have a lot of titles that you're able to sell, and you have the finances available, you might want to consider going with a vendor booth if they'll allow you to. Sometimes they won't because they really want artists sticking together, but I have only run into that maybe once where there was notes from the website of the show host that, you know, if you were an artist, you had to do an Artist Alley table, and that might be because people are learning that you get a priority positioning for a vendor booth. So that would be what you want to consider. I have paid as little as $45 for a table, and I've paid as much as $550 for a table. That's all going to come out of any profits that you can make. And one thing that I think can be tricky is understanding, is the money that I pay for this show indicative of the size of sales that I can do? And the caution here is, for a table, for example, for $550, do you know that you are in a place where people are going to be willing to buy books? Because if you target the wrong spot, it might be industry specialized, and you could find that the people there just really aren't thinking about books. They're thinking about maybe buying windows for their house or fixtures or things like that. So just be really careful if you're in the craft show arena that there are other vendors who are doing at least kind of similar stuff, and that would be my caution there. But yeah, typically you're going to spend, I think, $1,200 for Dragon Con. That actually might be low, and that's the biggest comic expo in the United States is Dragon Con. So you can spend a lot of money to get these booths, and you just need to be prepared. If you're going big, you need to have deals that will sell at a level where you can make back that money and still profit. Not to mention, it's easy to get lost in the drift if you're new to this. So I would suggest stay a little on the smaller side to start with, so you can get your feet wet, make your mistakes, and be really professional by the time you get to bigger shows. All right. So now we've gotten to the booking of the shows, how to find them, and go through that process. Let's move on to what it looks like when you get accepted into shows and what you want to have prepared so that you can be successful at these shows.
What is author marketing mastery through optimization, you ask? Now I'm going to tell you. It's the best way for us authors to make a living selling our books. Are you tired of hearing gurus tell you your book is only good enough to be a lead magnet for services? Are you tired of feeling like you have to be a slave to social media and then frustrated when the time you spend doesn't actually help you sell books? I was too, until I found Ammo. Ammo is the only program that reliably produces results, and it works for anyone. Is it hard work? You bet. Do you have to overcome some of your own prejudices to make Ammo work for you? Absolutely. But rather than being another program that rah-rah shish-goombahs tries to get you emotionally excited only to offer unclear methods, Ammo shows you how to design profitable ads step by step through a unique, highly tested and targeted formula. The founder, Steve Piper, is a data-loving, formula-driven author who escaped the kingdom of Amazon to build a platform for himself, where he sold directly to his readers and built a loyal following and millions of copies sold. With Ammo, you know who's reading your books, how to contact them, and what they want to read next. If you've always been frustrated with Amazon's wall of mystery of not knowing who's reading your books and losing 50 to 70% of your hard-earned money that you're making through sales, Ammo solves all of those problems by putting you in the driver's seat and showing you how to fulfill your books directly to your readership. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.
Once you've booked a show, the first question you're going to have, if you've never done it before, is what should I bring? And some of this may possibly rub some people the wrong way. I'm speaking directly from experience, from watching people sell books in the same areas that I am and watching their mistakes and watching what worked really well. I'm borrowing pretty heavily from Lydia and David share. I'm also borrowing heavily from my past experiences in sales, which I have more than a decade of sales in management alone, not to mention that much time as a sales representative for different companies and sales and retail. So I have a lot of experience in sales. It's one thing that I've done quite a bit of. So I would say you can take my advice here, put it in the bank, and it will serve you better than most other people who give you advice. And the reason that I'm front loading like this is because the tendency for people is to lean on gadgets and knickknacks and merchandise and a whole bunch of things that muddy the message. So if you go right now to Shoe Carnival, I think is the name of the place, and you walk in and the whole front of the store has clothing and like canvases with pretty little flowery paintings on it and curtains. Do you feel like maybe you walked into the wrong store? There's some confusion. It may be that the whole back of the store has more shoes at better prices than anywhere else. And by the way, I'm not saying this is what Shoe Carnival does. I'm saying if this is what they did, how many shoes do you think they would sell? Significantly less. That's the answer. They would sell significantly fewer shoes because people would be like, what's with all of the shirts and curtains and tub faucets? I don't understand. Like, I thought I went to Home Depot for tub faucets. You want to have your product and it needs to be the highlight. And you don't want to be afraid that you're going to lose customers, readers, new readers, because you don't have a prize wheel. You don't want to be afraid that you're not going to get a chance to speak with people because you don't have a dish of candy. Who gives a shit about candy? It just eats into your cost. It's not branding. It's nothing. It does no good for you. So don't bring it to the show. Well, what do you bring to the show then? This is actually super simple. And it's I'm going to try my best to not sound too rote, but I really want to read to you the things you need so that I make sure I hit all of them because I'm very minimalist and you should be minimalist as well. Later on, when you're a true pro, if you want to add in a few bells and whistles, we'll get to that. But let's start out with the non-negotiables. Okay, what you want to bring to a show. A tablecloth. Order a tablecloth that's at least 10 feet long, and that will be plenty good. 12-foot long tablecloth is probably great because that'll fully cover your area. So, 10 foot, but 12 foot's probably better. You can go with any color you want, but I will tell you that the majority of vendors have black, and it's the one area where you actually want to blend in. You don't necessarily want a tablecloth that pops because people start looking at the wrong thing. You're not there to sell tablecloths, you're there to sell books. So a black tablecloth tends to be the best way to go. Then you want at least a 4-foot poster / floor stand. There are a variety of combinations here that work. And I will be honest with you, when I started shows, I wanted to invest the least amount I could in the process in case it wasn't my cup of tea or it was just not going to be great. There was also just a time crunch for me. So I bought a really simple stand from Amazon that could adjust, and I could put a poster on the front and the back if I wanted. So it's a poster stand that can have a poster on both sides. I thought that would be good for utility. It's pretty heavy duty. And then I figured I would just find a poster board and print a 4-foot poster. So that's what I did, and that is currently the only poster I still have. I have one poster that I put on that stand. Sometimes it sits on my table, sometimes it's on the floor behind me. It kind of depends on the space and how well I can see people's movements. My most recent show was in Des Moines this past weekend, and I found that when I had the stand on the table in its shorter configuration, I couldn't see traffic coming at me from a certain angle, and it made it more difficult to engage. And so I put it on the floor, I made it as tall as I could, and I put it behind me. It still wasn't my favorite configuration. I was in kind of an awkward corner spot. Usually corners are great, but this corner was facing a Ross Dress for Less store, and so people were coming directly at me. They were also coming from behind my table, and they were coming from kind of like a diagonal from the other side. So with one poster, I could only hit a certain portion of the audience. That might be a reason that you want 2 posters, but at least one is important. I don't feel personally that I've ever lost a sale for a lack of posters or a lack of anything to draw the eye in, but you need one. It's really important. Otherwise, you're literally just a table set up, and it looks very naked. So you need something in that area. You need a flyer. When I say a flyer, I think the best configuration for this is the same size as a mailing postcard, and you can find it all kinds of places. I ordered from Vistaprint. They did me right. I got thousands of them so that I could get the per item cost down. It's very glossy, and this is a benefit from doing a lot of advertising online. I used my winning test images from my online advertising, and I turned it into what looks very much like a movie poster, and it says the Luke and Time Mysteries, and it has one blurb, and then I borrowed the 5-star sign from Amazon. I've got 5-star reviews before, but I kind of combined the pitch that I have with the 5 stars just to create that element. It's simple, it's catchy, draws the eye in, and I've had numerous people stop and talk to me because of the poster. So it's well designed, it's great. I'm happy with it. It works. It does work for me. It's kind of like the really simple version of an employee at the booth with you. So you're going to want that as well. And what you do with it. So my poster and my flyer, by the way, are the same. My flyer is a miniature version of my poster. You don't have to do that. You do whatever you want, but that's just what works for me, and it increases the kind of recognition. So I'm really trying to saturate brand and market by using the same image. People kind of, oh, I remember seeing that poster. Now they have the flyer. It seems to help with cohesion. So I might suggest that you do the same, but I cannot say with any certainty that having that cohesive element has helped or hindered me. But the flyer is the same size as a postcard. On the back of it, I've got my website, my QR code, one actual customer, book review from a customer on Amazon, and again, the 5 stars on the back. It's super duper simple. And then I give that away as my bookmark as well as just my promotional material. So if you buy the book, I slip it in the signed copy of the book. And if you don't buy a book, but maybe you stopped long enough to hear the pitch and interact with me, I'll be like, here, take one of these. While we're here, this is kind of probably goes more in the later section where I'm going to talk about some like black belt level stuff you can do. But when you give them the poster, make sure that you have, the flyer, make sure you have something that you say when you give it to them that can make them chuckle. I know that sounds challenging, especially if you're not a person whom humor comes to easily, but just think it through, test it a little bit, say different things. What I say is adapted from what Lydia Scherer would say when she would give hers away. And actually, I don't remember the exact thing she said, but she basically advised me the same thing, make people laugh, and it will work. And I have seen it work so well. But mine is, here, take one of these in case the mafia gets me before you return. And people always just kind of like, it's not, you're not going to win any awards for Comedian of the Year, but it's a way to lighten up that moment where they've said, no, they're not going to buy your books right now, or like, maybe I'll come back, whatever that is, that moment where they've stopped and not purchased, giving them that flyer increases the chances that they'll see your website at some point. Not only that, but they hold that flyer oftentimes. Some will put it right in their purse, but they hold that flyer as they're walking around, and they're advertising for you without even thinking of it. So don't be shy about giving those out. At the same time, I have been at shows with people who push their flyers like those guys on the Las Vegas Strip for strippers, ladies of the night, if you will. I'm sure there are gentlemen of the night as well. I just have never seen them hawked by those guys in Las Vegas. And if you've never been to Las Vegas, there are people standing on the streets at night outside of the casinos who like snap their cards like that, and it is very loud. They're better even than I just was at getting those. And then they'll say, you want this, take this, and like they'll actually like walk with you for a second, and it's desperate. No, I don't want. And so don't do that. I have seen people get fairly close to that where they're really trying to get their flyers out or their bookmarks or whatever it might be. Don't do that. But have them and be assertive about giving them out when people stop to talk with you. So the next one is really, really obvious, but we'll say it anyways. Make sure you have books. You're going to sell your books. Make sure you have them. The first show, you're going to want to bring more than you need. So what I typically find is that all told, for a good small show, you will likely sell a full case worth of books, perhaps a case and a half at a good show, and you'll be profitable doing that. So that might seem low, but if you sell 50 titles, which is a case of books, you're going to be perfectly fine for most small shows. You're going to recoup on gas. You're going to recoup on the cost of the books themselves, and you're going to recoup on the cost of the show table. So 50 books is a good benchmarker. You can sell more. I've sold significantly more than 50 books at a few shows that I've been to. But I would say probably bring 150 books just to be safe. And that also is somewhat dependent on how many titles you have. So I currently have 4 titles that I offer at any given show. It's The 9 Lives of Marva DeLonghi, The 8-Ball Magic of Susie Q, and The 24/7 of a Russian Named Ruskov. Then out of the series, I also offer The Stories of Bogey, which is my memoir. I never pitch the stories of Bogey, so I'll get to this in a second. Not never, excuse me. It's never my lead pitch, but anyways, I'll explain a little bit more about that and how you can adapt that if you're the kind of author like Colin Conway who has 2 distinct series in slightly different genres. So more to come on that, but you want to make sure that you have books. And the last thing getting toward the end of what you would want is a price sheet. This one's simple. You can go to Staples, or I'm sure you can get these off of Amazon. In fact, I'll try to link one in the show notes. That way, if you buy it after listening to this podcast, you can help support the podcast because all of the links that I typically have are affiliate products where I get a small commission if you buy from me. That doesn't mean it's any more expensive for you. It just means that Amazon likes me sharing their crap, so they give me a little bit of money to do so. Anyways, I will have those, and if you're going to do shows, feel free to buy after clicking on the link, and you'll support the show. So you want to get a little plastic holder case for your price sheets. And on the price sheet, you want to show what your deal is, and you want your deal to be transferable to any series you have. So if you're running 2 or more series, make sure that you don't have like a whole bunch of separate ones, but basically just decide easy is better here. 1 book for $18. This is my current offer. 1 book for $18, 2 for $30, 3 for $40, or 4 for $50. They get cheaper as you buy more, which means your profit margin goes down, but your total ticket goes up. And when you have a limited number of customers walking around, the more titles you sell, the more money you make, even though the profits are lower. That's pretty common sense, but it still bears to say you want to push the bigger ones. And this is an area it took me a long time to get good at. And I suggest that you listen to me, that you listen to Lydia, that you listen to Benjamin Wallace, that you listen to Ben Wolfe. The market is willing to pay more money for your books than you believe they are willing to pay for your books. I started out selling, I think I mentioned this already, 1 book for $13, 2 for $20. And I was very profitable at that show. What I realize now is that I could have sold 1 book for $18 and 2 for $30, and I would have been more profitable at that show. Even if I sold fewer 2-book deals, 1 for $18 is already just $2 short of the 2 for $20, and now I've lost less money because I didn't have to print both of those books and hand them over. So price your books according to what the market actually will bear, and I promise you, the market is more than willing to pay $18 for a single book and $30 for two. So that would be kind of the bottom starting point. I'm actually still lower priced than everybody who was around me in Des Moines this week. Nobody was selling their books as inexpensively as I was. And yet I still made out with more money than any of the other authors that I spoke to. So I'm happy with the success that I've had. I'm comfortable right now with my profit margins. I may eventually test going higher, but at that point, I'd actually be selling my books for more than they could get them on Amazon, and I don't know that I want to take that route. So that's where I'm at the moment. I did run a fairly large printing of the first book in my series so that I could get that cheaper. It saved me roughly $1 per copy. I thought it was going to be a bit more, but it didn't save me as much as I had hoped. Nevertheless, considered it worthwhile. If you're going to be doing a lot of in-person shows, it might be worth finding a smaller printer who can do large runs of offset printings. That will save you some money and increase your profit margins. That's more like a bonus tip right now. You can order off of KDP if that's how you've been doing it, and you will do just fine for yourself. So you've got your price sheets and now your branded stickers or bookmarks or flyer. I'm not sure whether I put this in the must-have or the bonus items that are coming up next, but I do have some bookmarks and I have some stickers, and I find that they can be kind of a fun in-between thing. So you'll find that families come together and little kids maybe like stickers. And so that sometimes actually will stop a family. And I've sold enough books. I sold one to a lovely lady this weekend who stopped and after she bought the book, she said, "You're really good at this selling thing. I had not intended to buy a book when I got here. So just know you're good at this." Well, that warmed my heart, and I guess that's a small advertisement from me to you, or about me to you. Anyways, that has happened to me in similar configuration where a kid stops to grab one of my stickers and we laugh a little bit about it, and the mom and the dad are trying to figure out, or the dad and the dad, or the mom and the mom, like, is this a free sticker? Do I have to pay for it? And I'll always just be like, yeah, take a sticker, buddy. Take a sticker. And then I'll be like, do you like to read by any chance? And I've sold books doing that. So people who looked like they were in a hurry to go and their kid stopped and they turned around to come back and corral the kid, then end up buying a book. So stickers can actually work fairly well, and they're low enough cost that it's probably not going to cut into your bottom line in a meaningful way. So let's put this in the not necessary but almost necessary category. Same with bookmarks. I just find they're redundant. The flyer works as well as a bookmark, and there are just so many people who will even say like, "Oh, I love this," like as a bookmark. I feel like bookmarks are, get lost inside the book or whatever it might be. In the flyer, it just is nice. It's big. It's good looking. So let's say flyer is necessary. Bookmarks are almost necessary. Then these things are some things that are going to fit into you can do them as you grow, and they will increase the look of professionality, and will probably be required for the larger Comic-Cons, like the 3 and 4 day events, but are not necessary for what you're going to be starting out with. And the first one is a banner. Banners are large, typically made of cloth. You can do paper. I've seen artists who like chain together a bunch of prints and hang that from a banner stand, but you need that banner stand and you need to print the banner. That's going to cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 to get both of those things. They're clunky. They're the most time-consuming things to set up, and at smaller shows, some places won't even allow them. So I definitely put that in the not necessary category, but they do help to look more professional. So Rich Hosek and I did another show together in Omaha, and he had his banner set up. I got the same exact banner. It's for #writers, a slightly defunct but hopefully still existing group of writers who are all trying to do this together as well. But it looks really nice when it's up. It reminds me of when you see people in Hollywood who go to their little photo galas and they take pictures behind like a banner that has a bunch of advertising for different supporters of the show or whatever. It looks very similar to that. I'll try to include a picture of it. But banners are tricky. You want them to get lost really in the visual landscape, but also draw you in, and that can be challenging. So that's, I think, why the like Hollywood photo ops do what they do. They have a bunch of repeating designs, almost like a plaid or a paisley, except with different companies' names. You see it, and it doesn't draw your eye as much as it assures like your unconscious self that something very professional and noteworthy is happening. So banners can be good. I have not used mine. I set it up one time just to make sure I knew what I was doing, and then put it all back in the box, and I have not pulled it out again. And this next one, some of you will be like, are you crazy? This is absolutely necessary. And the only reason I put it in the not necessary category is that I did probably my first dozen shows without having a cart. Even as recently as Omaha, I did not have a cart. Now, I admit, Rich had a cart at that show, and that was the time that I finally decided like I needed to get a cart, because depending on how the load-in goes, you could be like a quarter of a mile away from your table and carrying boxes and stands and posters and all that kind of stuff. Like, book boxes are heavy, folks. I know you know this, but they're heavy, and I did carry everything by hand for quite a while, but I realized like for me, a cart was just valuable. And what I would say is, don't get a solo dolly or hand truck. Don't get a solo hand truck, because you can only stack about 4 boxes on a hand truck. It's one of those ones that has 2 wheels and a scoop, and just like the handle, and you tip it back. Don't get one of those, because 4 boxes is hardly any better than 2, and you can probably carry 2 and not die. And so like, get one of the carts, and the best ones, they're like they are a hand truck, but then you can kind of pull a handle out and do other things, and now they have 4 wheels. And that to me is a really good setup. If it's a 4-wheeled cart, you can stack a lot of stuff on it. It can get pretty heavy, and it's just much more useful. So spend the money. I think Costco was running a special recently for like $150 for a 4-wheel cart that converted into a 2-wheel hand truck, and that's very versatile. So just keep a lookout. Find something that's good, and that will really help you with your load-in to make things more manageable. And so that's actually all that you need to have to start doing shows. It took me a little while to list all of these things, and I went on a few rabbit trails, but if you go back and look, it's actually just a list of 8 different things that you need. So keep it really simple. Don't do the prize wheels. Don't do the chocolates. Don't do the merch. Don't do t-shirts. Don't do, glass, snow globes. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. It only distracts from what you're really there for. You don't want to be known as the snow globe guy. You don't want to be known as the snow globe gal. You want to be the author that I met at that show. And t-shirts are expensive, and almost nobody buys them anyways, because they don't know who you are until they read your book. Maybe down the line you can get some canvas bags, or you could do a handful of t-shirts or something, but they just really add to the complexity. The last thing I'll mention, and I don't even number this one because it really is only necessary for like a very, very limited number of shows. There are places that do not provide tables. You're going to find this more when you're at the level of doing shows that are set up in malls. Occasionally the vendor will say like, you have to provide your own table. If that's the case, have an 8-foot folding table. In terms of like ease, I find that most manufacturers now are making them where they actually break down in the middle. So there's latches, and when you carry them, they're just like 4 foot by 2 foot or whatever. Very, very compact, 4 foot by 4. I don't know. I'm bad at measurements, folks. But anyways, they can fold in half, and they're pretty compact. So grab one of those if you plan to do any kind of shows that you think won't bring tables. But honestly, probably the best practice is just don't do shows that don't provide tables, because the biggest of the big shows all provide tables, and most of the small shows provide tables, and I've never heard of a craft fair that doesn't provide the tables. It's just the cost of them doing business, so that's what they provide for you. So table, not even a numbered thing, but it could be something that you end up needing to buy if you decide you want to do a show and it says it won't provide tables. All right, so moving on. This is a question Colin asked me that I think is worth at least stopping on for a moment, even though in some sense I'm not going to provide you a ton of value because it really has everything to do with your schedule. But that's, how many shows do you do a year? Obviously, you can only do as many shows as you have weekends available, and you can only do as many shows as you have weekends available where your significant others, I'm going to call them significant others, and I'm not speaking of only romantic relationships, but like kids and family and wives and husbands and sisters and brothers and mothers and fathers, whoever, is like, they're going to need you. They're going to need you to be around. You're going to have to work those things out for yourself and decide like, how much do I want to be gone? I'm aiming to do 45 shows this year. That's my goal, is to do 45 shows. And that means 45 weekends out of the year, I'm going to be gone at least one night. That is a ton of travel. And I've already really felt the impact of being away from my wife and kids that much. But we all agree, we're in agreement as a family that this is the time where I've got to hustle like this in order to get to the place where I build some traction. So you have to just decide what works for your family, what works for your goals, what works for your future hopes and dreams. And that's how many shows you should do a year. I think there are a couple of things that are worth noting on this question. One is do a show, and if it was profitable for you, plan and schedule to do the same show again the next year, and make sure that you have added at least a new title, because there are, and I cannot tell you how often I see this, but people are like, I come to this show every year. You're going to run into people who have bought your books, and in some cases, they will come up to you and be like, oh, I bought all your books last year. I still haven't read them. That will happen, and you'll be frustrated. You'll be like, oh, it's crazy. Some people will say, I've been waiting all year to see what title you had out. They won't go to Amazon. They won't go to barnesandnoble.com. They won't go to your website. They will literally sit on the books that they bought from you last year because they're so excited to get your next book, and you need to be there to capitalize on that, because those are the fans who will start to word of mouth spread information about you to their circles, and you will see residual sales from it. I cannot stress enough how important that is. So less about how many shows you go to a year, more about going back to the shows that were at least profitable or broke even for you, because that's where you're going to start to build super fans. The downside to that, and something I have to coach myself on all the time and remind myself of all the time, is that it requires years to build those relationships. They are not built in a day many times. Sometimes you do get somebody who immediately becomes a big fan. And I want to give you an example of that, because I had that happen to me in Des Moines. There was a gentleman who was walking around, and the show started out very slow for me. So load-in was at, latest you could check in was 9:30. So I get there and I check in at like 9:15, because, again, authors have the fastest setup of any booth ever. It takes 20 minutes to get you fully set up, especially if you're not doing a banner stand. So I just have learned how quickly I can do this. I get there like right at the last minute, but even then the show doesn't officially start until 11 o'clock. Mall doesn't open. You've got like mall walkers, but nobody's really coming by. So I'm there from 9:15 until 12:15, and I hadn't made a single sale. And I was like, this is going to be a massive dud. I was really bummed. The guy has done such amazing shows. He's never done me wrong. So in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, oh, this is going to be awful. But it wasn't awful, in fact. And the very first person I had come up to me, he stopped. He had a pack of Marlboro Reds in a pocket tee, and he did not look like a reader, I can say. And so but he kind of like slowed, and so I gave my normal pitch, which I say, "Do you read? Do you like to read?" And he kind of stopped, and he says, "No, but my wife does." And I said, "Oh, cool. Is your wife needing a gift? Because these books might make a great gift for her." And as we're talking, he kind of like seems maybe like he might buy a book, and he's like, "Well, how much are they?" And I pointed to my sign, and I said, "You can get one for 18." And he didn't even let me get through. He like bumped in right there, and he's like, "Well, that's really expensive for a book." And at the moment, I hadn't made any sales, was feeling a little snarky, and I was like, actually, I am the least expensive author here. $18 is a great deal for a book. And not only that, but you can get, 6 to 9 hours of reading pleasure, depending on how quick you read. I mean, you're going to spend that much money on a movie, and it'll be over in 90 minutes. And so, he walked away. He did not buy a book. And I was, saddened, frustrated. I was a little bit snarky, so I had to tell myself, don't do that again. Stop it. Be nice. Doesn't matter. Just be nice. A little while later, he comes by. I think I'd made a couple sales at that point. He comes by, and he says, my wife wants that book. And I was like, well, awesome. Okay, cool. So he gets one for 18, and I sign it. Her name is Rhonda. Thank you, Rhonda. And I sent him on his way. Sent him on his merry way. The next day, I get to the show, and I'm already all set up. Basically, I just have to kind of like straighten up and prettify the table, whatnot. So I get there like basically right at opening time, maybe, probably still an hour early. In fact, it was an hour early, and that plays into the story. So I get there about an hour early, get everything kind of set up and going. And you see enough people that when you recognize somebody, you're not sure you recognize them, but I see this guy kind of approaching the table, and I had that like flicker of recognition. All the other authors around me were not set up yet. So I was the only one who was actually set up and standing at my table. And he's kind of approaching, and then I remember, oh, this is the guy, the Marlboro Red guy. And he comes up to the table and he says, "My wife loved your book. She loved it. She wants the other two." And that was very gratifying. And that feeling, I know that many of you have had it one way or another, but that was like, I told the guy next to me, the author next to me later about it. And I said, like, I'm done for the day. I'm good. Like, I've already had my moment, and it made everything worth it. It was good that I was already profitable. Even if I didn't make another sale, I was already profitable for the weekend by the end of Saturday. But like just that feedback, that immediate feedback was very reinforcing. And so that is the power of shows. You rarely get that. I have not had anything quite like that happen. I have had some people reach out to me via email and other places to say, like, really loved your book. Excuse me. Sorry. So that is the power, and a lot of times it's going to take multiple years. So how many events? Do as many events as you can fit in and that fits your goals. Okay, so now we're going to get into a brief section. I'm going to try to keep it short because we're already coming up on an hour for a solo podcast. That's a little longer than usual. But hopefully, like I said, this is the best episode I think I'm going to do, solo episode for the podcast in the foreseeable future, because I'm really digging into the nitty gritty. And this is good information to come back to time and again to just really figure out what works for you. These are best practices, and I might have mentioned them, so I'm going to go through some of it kind of quickly, but a big one is don't underprice your books. I did talk about that. Don't underprice your books. Sell them what they're worth, but do offer bundle discounts. And I've told you what my bundle discounts are. Decide for yourself what works. Absolutely offer bundle discounts. Do not just sell every individual book for $18 because you will sell only individual books at that point. This is maybe trickier for people who don't have series, though you can still do it really well. Do that bundle. Say, like, you can get this book and this book for X amount of dollars. That will really help you. So definitely offer bundle discounts.
I'm 4 books into a 9-book series, and every single day lately, I find myself thinking, boy, it would be great if I had some central location for all of my notes, all of my plot points, character names, family lineages, you name it. I wish it was in one place because, let's be honest, the way that I am using Microsoft Word as a word processor and have 55 different documents to keep track of all of the series details that I need to access, I'm taking more time opening up files wondering, why did I name this one that? Why did I name this one that? And not getting the information I need. Enter Scrivener. You guys know that I do not advertise for things unless A, I'm using them myself, and B, I think that you could up your game, sell more books, do better marketing, and get yourself in the game better. And that is why I am now partnered with Scrivener. If you use the link in the show notes, you get a 30-day free trial, and then you can sign up as well for a discount. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.
The next one is to develop a pitch and design that pitch around the rule of 3. If you've listened to my second podcast with David and Lydia Scherer, they talked about this in depth, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I will give you my pitch. These are booze-fueled mysteries with a splash of dark humor and a twist of magical mayhem. I give a lot more personality to it in person, but I say that to every single person who approaches my table, and I focus solely on the Luke and Time mysteries for anybody who comes up to my table, and that is where we get into the secondary pitch. So if you are a person like Colin Conway who has 2 series, develop a pitch for each one and make sure that they follow the rule of 3. The rule of 3 is simply that you have 3 positive points about your series. Booze-fueled mysteries, that's point 1. With a splash of dark humor, that's 2. Dark humor's 2. And a twist of magical mayhem, that's number 3. It highlights 3 elements that are consistent through your series. Develop a pitch for both of them. Series that you have, all 3 series, how many ever series you're bringing. but make sure you have a unique pitch for each of them, and then determine which one is the lead pitch. So that can be challenging at first if you haven't done online advertising or any other kind of advertising, or if you don't have a ton of sales data from Amazon and other places. But I would typically say the best-selling series you have, if you have multiples, is the one that should be the lead pitch for you, because you will see that the same rules that apply online do generally apply in person. So have your lead pitch for your best-selling series, however you determine that, and only bring out your secondary pitch if somebody gives a little grimace, like, oh, I don't do mysteries, or oh, I don't like horror, or oh, I'm not much of a romance reader. And then you're like, okay, well, how would you like? And in this case, I have my memoir with me, so I say, how would you like a memoir with a little bit of adventure and quite a bit of drug use? I don't actually say that. I don't really have a pitch. If I'm being honest, you should, but I don't for my memoir. What I say more often than anything is when people ask about the book or they seem uninterested, the truth is I don't pitch the memoir because it's there for a very specific reader, and I only ever have about 10 copies on hand. So I bring those to the shows and I refill them when I sell out. But the memoir I wrote is about losing my daughter. And so when people do ask about the book, they see it on the table, they're like, oh, what's this? And I'll say, that's my memoir. And I will always say, like, I know I look pretty young to have already written a memoir, but my wife and I lost our daughter about 10 years ago, and this was the best way I knew how to deal with it. And I also understood that other people have experienced grief, and so I wanted to offer this for a very specific reader who maybe feels like they can connect and would get some catharsis out of experiencing the healing process through grief. So it's something like that. It always goes far more heartfelt when I pitch that book. But I can't tell you, this week in Des Moines, I sold 4 copies of it, and they were all people who really clearly didn't want to read mysteries that were booze-fueled and dark humor and all that stuff. So it's great to have another one there. And if you have a series that you can develop that pitch for, go get them. Go get them. Do it. It will help. And lean on that secondary pitch to try to get sales where maybe your first pitch wasn't perfect. But do not, and I cannot, again, stress this piece enough, do not, under any circumstances ever, for as long as you live, let me say it again, never do this. Never, ever, ever judge a person by the way that they look. I have had so many book sales with people who did not look like readers, with people who did not seem to fit my dynamic, with people who didn't have any appearance of being a reader at all. I'm not going to go into details because what this actually says is that I am a very prejudiced, classist jackass who makes snap judgments about human beings that I have no business doing. And if there's anything better than sales to teach you that being a jackass and having classism and having all of those snap judgments that are so gross, if there's nothing else that does it better than sales, I just don't know what it would be. Snap judgments are stupid. Don't do it. Don't allow yourself to do it. The one area where you can make a judgment, after I've told you never do it, is age. So when I see somebody come up who I assume is on the younger side of 16, I always adjust my pitch just a bit, and I add a 4th element, breaking the rule of 3, because what are rules there for if not to be broken? But if I think it's a younger reader and they actually appear interested, I will say before I get into the rule of 3, these are pretty heavy on violence and language or something to that effect. I just signal to them, these are adult books, they're rated R, anything like that. When I say these are boobs-fueled mysteries, that is what's actually standing in the place of rated R. But with kids, I actually take away any kind of metaphor and I just go right into it. I typically do not think that these are a great fit for anybody under the age of 16 because of the degree of graphic violence and 4-letter words that are in it. I've sold books to younger readers that have been with their parents and said, oh, they've seen it all. They've seen it all. I had a kid come who, I think he was 12, and I did this. Like, he was very young, a year older than my son, and I wouldn't let my son touch these books with a 4-foot pole, except for the time he helped me sell them. But I wouldn't let him read them. And this kid, this 12-year-old kid, and his parents are standing there, and I gave him the pitch, and they're like, he's seen it all. And he's like, I love Deadpool. And I was like, okay, if you've seen Deadpool, there's nothing here you're going to be offended by. And so I did sell him the books because he was really excited about it. Hopefully he liked them. But yeah, generally speaking, that would be the one time that you could break the rule of never or the rule of three. So be careful, though. Do not judge anybody by the way that they look. You'll lose sales and you'll destroy your heart. Be open and accepting, you jerks. Jeez, good grief. All right, and so that's going to bring us to the black belt marketing, and we are drawing toward the end. For black belt marketing, I just have two things. One of them is, and this is how I would do it now versus how I am doing it currently. It sounds like the same thing, but how I'm doing it currently is that I made a really huge printing of my books with the very first page that you visit being an explanation that I am a dyslexic author. And therefore, it is easiest for me to listen to the audiobook while I read the physical book with my hand. And underneath that, there's a QR code where you can download my audiobook for free. This is so great. I call it black belt marketing because it is the biggest driver of on-the-fence sales of anything that I do. People will come by and they will say, I'll say, do you like to read? And they will say, no, but I mean, I listen to audiobooks. And I'll be like, well, you're at the right place. And I get that sale more often than not. If they've said already that they like audiobooks, whoo boy, I'm like a dog on a meat truck. I'm just like all over that. You're not walking away without this book, because if you like the audiobook, X.C. Sands is as good as it gets. She's an amazing narrator, and you're going to love this. You're going to adore it. And plus, I get to sign the book. I mean, you walk away with a souvenir copy that you can give away if you want after you've downloaded your audiobook, obviously. Or you can try what I've been doing and put those headphones on and sit down with a book and see if it doesn't change the way that you read forever. It's brilliant. It works really, really well. It's super black belt. I will illustrate that by again talking about Des Moines, because this was an interesting show. I signaled earlier that the vendors around me, I sold better than them. That's not always the case. I'm not saying I'm always going to sell more than other authors. In fact, Rich outsold me so heavy on the second day in Omaha that I got a little chip on my shoulder for a second. I mean, he just kicked butt. There were people coming up and they're like, I'm a ghost hunter. And I was like, well, he's your guy, because there's no ghost in my freaking books. But anyways, there's the guy to my right at the Des Moines show. He came in, and before anything had happened, he told me that this was the dog on his list every year. It was the worst show. He never got any sales. He was really negative, and it was getting in my head. I was like, well, crap. I've been to this same vendor's shows a lot of times, and he's always picked great places. And I was thinking it was going to be a good one. And I thought I'd heard from Ben Wolf that Des Moines was typically like his best show. And so I was really like starting to feel negative. And then I didn't get any sales until 12:30. So I'd been there for hours before I sold my first book, and it was getting in my head. But as I started to notice the weekend going on, I was selling significantly more books than him. Part of it was positioning. He was in a middle aisle of three. So us authors were in a cube shape by that Raw Stress for Less show, and he was in the middle. So somebody had to actually turn instead of continuing straight down the aisles in order to see his table. I'm going to grant him that. I'm going to give him that. But man, the negativity that he had was so high. But like when I started talking about my audiobooks, he started making really snarky comments about like giving shit away for free. And it like, he was pretty friendly for the most part, but as I sold more and more, he kind of was letting me know that he thought giving away the audiobook was like a below the belt or something. And that's just a guy who's pissed off about like not selling a lot of books. But it also illustrates how successful you can be doing it. So I told you just a second ago how I would do it now versus how I actually am currently doing it are different. How I would do it now is I would print stickers. I would make stickers for your shows. That way all of your books don't have to give away the audiobook for free, then like maybe detracting from your audiobook sales from other channels. But instead print out the stickers and have some kind of page maybe at the front that still discusses like why audiobooks are great or anything that you want to do to lead them in. And then you basically just say, hey, when you buy this book, I give you the audiobook for free. You put that sticker in there, you sign the book, and boom, they're on their way. They just got their audiobook for free. The reason I say sticker and the reason I say put it on the book is because you don't want that audiobook to be falling into the wrong hands necessarily. Maybe I'll change my opinion on this. It's evolving even as I'm thinking about it, because why do I care who gets the audiobook? But I think a sticker is cool because you put it on the show copy and it gives it something that is a little bit unique, that's an addition, and you're more versatile in where you can sell those books. So that would be my current advice, is get a sticker for the audiobook QR code. Now, the last one that I have is bring a tablet if you have a tablet. And the reason that you want to do this is it makes it really easy to get signups for your newsletter. If you're not currently doing a newsletter, you should be. I have episodes about newsletters. I will probably do more in the future. But it's a real backbone for everything that you're going to be doing in your author career. Even if your newsletter isn't pumping along and really churning out great things for you today, consistency with it over the years and its growth will multiply into success for you. So having a tablet can be great. I don't put it up in the top of this episode because you don't need it ever at any point. There are other ways to collect email addresses. And why I call it a black belt move is because you actually need to be super good at marketing before you go throwing that tablet around at everybody asking for them to sign up. You don't want casual walker-bys to sign up. You don't want people who said no, they don't want your books to sign up in most cases. You have to have a lot of discernment to decide when to do it. In fact, you don't even want every book buyer to sign up. You want to let them self-select for signing up. So you can let them know, hey, I do have a newsletter if you're interested, but a tablet can be helpful there. I've never used one, and I don't plan to use one anytime soon, but I've seen David and Lydia do it really well, and I know other authors who are very successful with it. So I see that it does play an important role in this process. And with that, dear friends, dear writers, dear ambitious to sell your books authors, we have come to the end of the Everything You Need to Know to Go Do a Show Today podcast episode. You now are fully equipped to go out to do a live event and to be successful. If you have any questions for me, I would love to do a follow-up on this show. So fire those at me through my Substack, which is where I host this podcast, or fire them to me via email at jodyjsperling at gmail.com. jodyjsperling at gmail.com is my email address. Feel free to reach out to me there and ask any questions you have that I can clarify for this process. After going for a little over an hour and 15 minutes, I hope that I've covered this pretty darn exhaustively. Wow. Right now I'm thinking of one thing that I wish I would have talked about a little bit. I'm going to throw in the black belt. I'm going to throw in the black belt because you have to be a black belt to do it anyways. If you want to expand your radius as far as I have an 8-hour radius. This really depends on what you have available to you and the level of comfort you're willing to sacrifice. But my Toyota Sienna is retrofitted with a full-size mattress in the back. I stack my book boxes on it when I drive out to the show. I do my load in, find a place to sleep, and I sleep in the back of my van. That saves me hotel costs and therefore makes me more versatile on the size of shows I can do and how far I can go and still be profitable. So there you go. That's my bonus of the bonuses, and we truly are completely done. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I love you so much. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to TRBM. The theme music was provided by the ever-talented Christopher Talon. And hey, if you liked what you heard, share this show with other readers, because what's the point of telling stories if nobody's listening? Calling all self-published authors. If you live in the United States and you've always wanted to see your books in bookstores, this may be the most important ad you'll hear in 2023. Listen carefully. No matter where you are in your publishing journey, it's not too early to position yourself to pursue brick and mortar bookstore distribution. But if you're a self-published author, you've probably heard getting your books in stores is next to impossible. That's no longer the case. For just $5, you'll receive a lifetime membership to the Self-Published Author Co-op. When you join, you'll have access to a members-only community with a detailed roadmap on how to get your books ready for bookstore distribution. Joining our community does not guarantee bookstore distribution, as there's a limited availability each month to be a featured author. And that's why the cost of a lifetime membership is less than a cup of coffee. Whether you're just about to publish your first book or you're selling thousands of copies a month, if you don't have your books in bookstores, the Self-Published Author Co-op is the easiest, most efficient way to get national distribution of your books. Click the link in the show notes to join now.